a presentation and documentary on the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The FLDS is a break-off sect from the mainstream LDS Church. The split occurred because the LDS Church abandoned polygamy in 1890, but some members believed this was a betrayal of God's commandments. Those fundamentalists continued the original practices, eventually forming what is now known as the FLDS. Today, the FLDS is known for its isolated communities, strict leadership, and belief in continuing the practices of early Mormonism.
The FLDS bases many beliefs on early teachings of the LDS Church, but interprets them more literally and strictly. Members believe they are preserving the true, original doctrine, especially the doctrine of plural marriage. They also place a strong emphasis on purity, obedience, family structure, and the building of Zion, which is a perfect society. Everyday life is governed by religious rules that influence clothing, education, marriage, and social interaction.
One of the defining features of the FLDS is its leadership structure. At the top is the prophet, who is believed to speak directly to God. Whatever the prophet commands is treated as divine law, and the members are expected to obey this without question. Below the prophet are trusted male leaders, such as elders, bishops, and counselors. They enforce religious and social rules in the community. This hierarchy creates a powerful system where spiritual authority and everyday life are tightly connected.
Polygamy is seen as a central requirement in the FLDS faith. Men who are considered spiritually worthy are encouraged to take multiple wives, and having as many children as possible is viewed as a sign of divine favor.
However, this practice has led to major controversies, especially involving underage marriages, arranged marriages, and the unequal power dynamics between men and women. These issues have brought legal attention and public criticism to the FLDS over the years of its existence.
In the FLDS community, women traditionally take on very restricted roles. They are encouraged to focus on motherhood, domestic responsibilities, and obedience to their husbands and church leaders. Education for women often stops early and career paths are limited. The community teaches that women's spiritual success depends on their obedience and their participation in plural marriage. This structure can lead to very limited autonomy for women and girls within the group.
The FLDS often live in isolated communities, with the largest being in Colorado City, Arizona, and Hydale, Utah. These communities are designed to be self-sustaining, with their own schools, farms, and businesses. Members usually dress in plain, modest clothing and live by strict rules separating them from the outside world. The isolation strengthens the sense of unity, but it also makes the group more closed off and very resistant to outside influence.
A major spiritual goal for FLDS members is the creation of Zion, a pure, godly society prepared for the return of Jesus Christ. This idea gives members a sense of purpose and encourages them to endure hardships as part of spiritual mission. They believe their obedience and sacrifice will help build Zion both physically and spiritually. This focus on perseverance helps explain why many members remain loyal even though difficult circumstances may happen. Although both the LDS Church and the FLDS Church share historical roots, the differences between them today are significant. The LDS Church has renounced polygamy and modernized many of its practices, while the FLDS still claims these practices are essential for salvation. The FLDS also grants far more absolute power to the prophet, whereas the LDS Church uses a council-based leadership model. These differences show how the two groups developed in completely separate directions.
In the FLDS, authority figures, especially the prophet, controls almost every aspect of community life. They decide who marries whom, who is spiritually worthy, and who is allowed to stay in the community. If someone is seen as disobedient or rebellious, they can be excommunicated, which often means losing access to family members. This level of authority makes it difficult for individuals to challenge the system or leave the group.
The FLDS has faced many legal issues over the years, mainly related to polygamy, child marriage, and allegations of abuse. One major event was the 2008 raid on the YFC Ranch in Texas, where hundreds of children were removed due to concerns about underage marriages. Some FLDS leaders have been arrested and convicted of various charges. These controversies have brought national attention to the group and have created ongoing conflict between the FLDS and government authorities.
Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or FLDS, is a controversial sect that split from mainstream Mormonism in the earlier 20th century. They continue to uphold polygamy as a central tenet of their faith, and their doctrines and practices have been at the center of public scrutiny for decades.
To understand the FLDS, we first need to look at the origins of Mormonism itself. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was founded by Joseph Smith in 1830. Smith's teachings include the belief of modern-day prophets, the restoration of the true gospel, and the idea of eternal families. These doctrines quickly gained a following, and the church established itself as a significant religious movement in the United States. However, one of the most controversial aspects of early Mormonism was polygamy, the practice of one man having multiple wives. This was introduced by Joseph Smith in the 1840s and later continued under Brigham Young, the second leader of the church.
Despite the mainstream LDS Church officially renouncing the practice of polygamy in 1890, many members who continued to practice it felt betrayed. Over the following decades, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was formed by those who opposed the mainstream church's abandonment of polygamy. The FLDS, founded in the early 1900s, maintains that polygamy is an essential doctrine for reaching the highest levels of heaven. This group considers themselves the true followers of Joseph Smith's teachings, insisting that the mainstream LDS Church has strayed from the original revelations. One of the most infamous leaders of the FLDS was Warren Jeffs, who took control of the group in the late 1990s. His leadership was marked by authoritarian control and numerous allegations of abuse. Jeff was convicted of multiple charges related to sexual abuse of minors, and his arrest brought worldwide attention to the FLDS community.
The FLDS still exists.
Okay. No.
My grandpa died at 92. He had hair on his head.
Okay.
Yeah.
The FLDS still exists today, though under new leadership. The group remains isolated from the outside world and is based in communities in the United States, including the twin towns of Colorado City, Arizona, and Hilldale, Utah. Members adhere to strict guidelines, including dress codes, limited social interactions, and an emphasis on maintaining a rigid patriarchal family structure.
You might need to restart. I kind of just talked.
Have we seen life inside the FLDS can be isolating and oppressive for many, especially for women. But what does the future hold for this controversial group? While the FLDS continues to exist, it's clear that the scrutiny and legal challenges they face are only increasing. There are still many people within the community who continue to follow the teachings of the church, but there are also those who are leaving in increasing numbers, seeking new lives and new opportunities outside of the constraints of the faith. While the future of the FLDS remains uncertain, the stories of those who have left us give us hope that change is possible. It's a reminder of the power that the individual agency in the resilience of the human spirit. Have we seen life inside the FLDS can be isolating and oppressive for many, especially for women. But the FLDS continues to exist, it's clear that the scrutiny and legal challenges they face are only increasing. There are still many people within the community who continue to follow the teachings of the church, but there are also those who are leaving in increasing numbers, seeking new lives and new opportunities outside of the constraints of the faith. While the future of the FLDS remains uncertain, the stories of those who have left us give us hope that change is possible. It's a reminder of the power that the individual agency in the resilience of the human spirit.
In this part of the documentary, we'll hear from someone who grew up within the FLDS community and later left. Their insights provide a unique perspective on what life is like inside the church and the challenges of leaving it.
Have we seen life inside the FLDS can be isolating and oppressive for many, especially for women. But what does the future hold for this controversial group? While the FLDS continues to exist, it's clear that the scrutiny and legal challenges they face are only increasing. There are still many people within the community who continue to follow the teachings of the church, but there are also those who are leaving in increasing numbers, seeking new lives and new opportunities outside of the constraints of the faith. While the future of the FLDS remains uncertain, the stories of those who have left us give us hope that change is possible. It's a reminder of the power that the individual agency and the resilience of the human spirit.
And now is our interview with a past member of the FLDS Church. We came in contact with her through the Holding Out Hope organization, and she chose anonymity, so we are respecting that by not giving major details and distorting her voice slightly.
Thank you for joining us today. Could you start by telling us a little bit about your upbringing with the FLDS?
Sure. I was born and raised in the FLDS community. My family was very devout, and we followed the teachings of the church strictly. I was taught from a young age that the only way to really be righteous was to kind of adhere to the principles of polygamy and to obey the prophets, and especially to follow the rules set by leaders. It was a very closed off kind of world.
All right, thank you. How was your experience like growing up, especially as a woman in the community?
As a woman, my role is very clear. We were expected to be obedient and to marry as young as possible, and especially the main goal was to bear children. Our education was very limited and never really went to school. I was taught that my primary role was to serve my husband and the church. I didn't have very much exposure to the outside world or to really any other ways of thinking.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned polygamy. Can you explain what it was like growing up with this practice as the norm?
Yes, polygamy is part of our everyday life. I had many sisters and stepsisters, and we lived in a large family. The relationships between the wives were often tense, but the idea was that polygamy was essential for our salvation. That's what we were taught. The leaders would say that the more wives a man had, the higher his place in heaven. So for women, it was about fulfilling a role to ensure their family's salvation. And that's what I had to do.
At what point did you decide to leave FLDS, and what challenges did you face?
So I left in my early 20s back in 1993. It wasn't an easy decision because I had been conditioned to believe that leaving was a sin and that I would be end up lost. But over time, I began questioning the leadership of FLDS and the treatment of the women there, and the control over the lives. Once I left, it was incredibly difficult. I really had to learn how to live in the outside world, which was very hard for me. I had to learn how to think for myself, and even do simple things like getting an education. I felt like I was really starting from scratch when I left.
All right, thank you.
That story hit hard with fresh insights. It sharpened our grasp of the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We learned so much about how this group broke away from the main church. Their people held tight to their practices of plural marriage, and this story shows how members still see themselves as true followers of early church leaders that told them to be true to building tight-knit communities. Throughout this, we dug into their core beliefs. We learned how they stress obedience from prophets and prepare for end times that their scripture shows. This religion, though, has both sides of the coin. We learned specific leaders face charges for child abuse and forced marriages. Things happen. Not all is bad. All in all, the religion stands strong, and efforts shine through as well. Ex-members now run schools and farms and can seek out a new life through therapy and integration. This story didn't teach us to stay away from this religion, but that people have their own beliefs. They're entitled to them, and that leaving isn't necessarily from bad, but for a passion from growth. This has widened our eyes to one more faith in the world, and leaving us with a greater understanding of the people around us.